Good morning. My name is Mathieu, and I will be explaining to you the importance of sufficiency in design, which is part of the building design section of our class-wide research. So to start off, we must ask ourselves, what is sufficiency in design? I'm not surprised that you are confused about it. Sufficiency isn't mentioned enough when discussing design. Most of the time, people try their hardest to be efficient, but efficiency isn't enough. We as humans must ask ourselves, what do we really need? An energy analyst gave a very eye-opening quote that really stuck with me and sums up the relationship between the two by stating that efficiency without sufficiency is lost, which is extremely true. And I will explain furthermore with this graph, explaining how we can move from efficiency to sufficiency. As you can see at the bottom, as we start from efficiency, we speak about minimizing waste. We can do this by improving construction practices. Then we move up to building efficiently. So that consists of using efficient materials and minimal designs. But sadly, using efficient materials is not enough. We must adjust the size of buildings and make the most of the material by only using it if it is completely necessary. As we get to the middle, we talk about building clever, so reusing materials. And as we move to sufficient design, we get to building less and to the point where we build nothing. So we refurbish buildings and make use of the structures that already exist. This is a very smart carbon reduction strategy. With that being said, why aren't we sufficient when it comes to building design? Well, sufficiency is hard to sell, especially given the fact that sufficiency isn't a product like efficiency is. Sufficiency requires you to reevaluate whether you need the item or not and the amount that you need. Realistically, no company is going to convince you not to buy their product. It's their job to sell you things that you don't exactly need, things that are pleasing to the human eye. Sadly, they do their job a little too well. Sometimes we get caught up in pretty things and large and extravagant objects, but we don't think about the materials and our consumption when we purchase. Ultimately, it is up to you to reduce your impact instead of reinvesting in efficient items you already own. Two main ways we can be sufficient as property and building owners is we can live in smaller houses. With a smaller house, you consume less and use less building material to build the house itself. Another way is to invest in walkable neighborhoods. This promotes green communities and encourages designers to focus on building communities instead of the buildings themselves. We can even ask larger questions, such as, do we even need to live in houses at all? Some trends that are being passed around are the idea of living in reused spaces, such as shipping containers, flatbacks, or even a yurt. It's eye-opening to see how we can create new spaces out of spaces that already existed. Who knew it could be this easy? With a large house, you feel tempted to fill it with large appliances, furniture, decor, closets, all things that you don't exactly need, you just want. This is not only a social addiction, but a psychological one as well. With less space comes less waste. What are some carbon statistics that can back up the information I've taught you so far? Well, we can start by looking at this chart. You can see that building operations take up the most carbon. followed by the materials that are used to build the buildings in the first place, such as concrete, steel, aluminum, glass, plastics, and rubbers. In order to reduce this statistic, we must reuse and optimize the use of buildings and be more aware of what we need and the impact of our consumption. Thank you very much. I hope that you take my points into consideration when purchasing or designing your next property. I know I will.